Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's finally happening. I've been debating on making a YouTube channel for the longest time. I just feel like there's no better time to make a YouTube channel than, on a whim, kind of like just making a YouTube channel and then just making videos, because the longer I wait, the more I'm gonna make up excuses to not do it rather than just doing it and seeing how it works out. So here we are. Maybe I will make a video about what this channel will be about and what I want to do and what direction I want to take it right now. But this video is going to be a story time about when I worked at a Greek restaurant for a week. But yeah, so let's just start by giving you guys some background. I used to work at a grocery store, and my managers were trash. They would not, work with your schedule, your availability. They would never stick to it. And that was always a problem. It was just a mess. So I was over it. I worked there for a while. And so I started applying to places, and I applied to this Greek restaurant. I was thinking, maybe if I become a waitress, the availability thing won't be such a big deal. Like I can make my cash the night of and just go, rather than having to wait 1 week or 2 weeks for a paycheck, which, gets taken by taxes mostly. I barely have any money left over, but it's fine, whatever. I applied to this job, and almost immediately after I sent in my resume and my application, I get a phone call, and she's just like,
"Hey, is this Stephanie?"
And I'm just like, "Yeah, this is she, what's good?" And she's just like,
I want to call you to ask if you want to come in for an interview. I got your application online, so you want to set up a time to come?
And she's, she seemed like she was talking pretty fast, like she was in a rush or something. And I was just like, yeah, that's fine. Like I can come in. And she's like,
all right, come in tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and we'll sit you down and we'll, discuss the job.
And I was just like, cool. And, I'm dressed nicely. I'm dressed at, in interview attire, like dressy casual. And I walk in, and there's this short little Greek lady with blonde hair and glasses, and I'm looking at her, and I guess she thought that I was a customer. I don't know if I should say my name. Well, my last name sounds kind of like a Caucasian name. I'm not Caucasian at all. Both of my parents are from Jamaica, but that's my last name. And so I feel like most of the time when I apply to these places, they're expecting someone of the Caucasian persuasion, the Caucasian race. And so I walk in, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm here for an interview. And she's just like,
oh, okay. You're Stephanie?
And I was just like, yeah, I'm Stephanie. And she was just like,
okay, let's sit down and let's have our interview.
And so we sit down in like one of the empty booths. It wasn't very busy at the restaurant at all. She sits me down, and she's just like,
so when are you able to start?
I was so desperate to leave my job. So desperate to leave my job at the time. So over it. Basically just asks me when I'm available next, and I tell her, and she's just like,
come in tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Like tomorrow? That's kind of quick, and you know that when you get hired on the spot and they ask you to come in tomorrow, that the job might not be as promising. That's just from my experience. Like, I just feel like when they hire you on the spot, that's how you know they have a very fast turnover rate. Like, as far as employees, like people are quitting right and left. They can't keep anybody there. So they hire you on the spot because they know that you need the job, and they desperately need somebody as well, because they're shorthanded. I agreed to it, and I basically showed up the next day at 4. I think I showed up in like just black pants, and she told me to go buy some black work shoes, like the non-slip shoes that you have to wear when you work in like a restaurant. I had some when I used to work at this pizza place. They're back home at my parents' house, so I had to just go pull up to, Wally World real quick and go grab a new pair. And So that cost me maybe like 18-20 bucks for that pair of shoes. And I already had some black pants, you know, just because everyone needs just a basic pair of black slacks. So I wore those, and then I wore black shirt. And so she was just like, oh, you can buy the shirt from me tomorrow. The shirt is $20. And I was just like, okay. $20 for a shirt? Like, usually most places they just give you the shirt. Like, you don't have to buy your shirt. Like, I feel like it's really to make the employee that you hired buy their shirt when they already have to buy all the other pieces of the uniform, because you need, you know, your apron, you need pants if you don't already have black pants, and you have to buy the non-slip shoes. It's like the least they could do is provide the shirt for you. So that happened. And then also after I bought the shirt, she was like,
well, you're gonna need an apron. Do you have an apron?
and I was just like, no. She was like,
well, you can just buy one from me for $10.
I said, $10 for an apron? I can get a pack of aprons for less than $10 on Amazon, like a 3-pack. But I mean, I just didn't have enough time to go and buy that, obviously, because she wanted me to start like right away. So I just went ahead and just bought the apron from her so that I didn't have any problems. So at this point, I've dropped about $50 on this uniform like that. When I started working, purchased 0 things. They provided everything for me. Of course, like, this is a mom and pop shop. It's not a chain restaurant. It's a local restaurant. So, I mean, I don't know if they're tight on money and they can't provide those things, but also at the same time, they don't really have a huge amount of staff. Like, there's maybe like a handful of waiters and waitresses that work at this restaurant. So I didn't really understand why they couldn't just provide the shirt. But whatever, that's beside the point. Well, it comes into play, but whatever. So I show up the next day after I have class around like 4:20ish. I think she said she wanted me to be there at 4:30. So I pull up, and it's my first day. I've never been a waitress before. I'm familiar with the computer system that they have at restaurants, but I'm not really experienced in waitressing and, you know, going and taking orders from people in person. Like, I was used to taking orders over the phone. I mean, people would come in and order their pizzas and stuff in person, but it wasn't the same as like walking up and bringing them their drinks and bringing them their food like multiple times. It's just a whole different dynamic than what I'm used to. Oh, I forgot to mention this. In my interview, she was kind of like,
oh, I'm not sure if I'm time to train somebody, blah, 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 blah.
Guys, at my other job, I worked in 4 or 5 different departments, okay? I pick up information quick. I pick up training really quick. Like, once I get the hang of something, it takes me like 2 or 3 tries, and I'm like, good, you know? They don't have to question me about it anymore. I know what I'm doing. So I don't really go into my first day thinking that I can't do it, because I've never seen it get slammed there, for one, and 2, it's just like, how hard could it be? Because waitressing is mostly just common sense and remembering things. Like, what would you want if you walked into a restaurant? Of course, you're hungry. Bring people bread, bring them drinks, little, you know, things to hold them until they get their food. And so it's my first day. You know, she kind of just makes me shadow the other 2 waitresses that were working there. And these 2 waitresses are the waitresses that I worked with mainly the entire time that I worked there for 1 or 2 weeks. So we're gonna name one Ashley, and we're gonna name the other one Monica. So Ashley, she was the first one that I met, and at first she seemed okay. The only thing that I noticed off the bat, I always notice this about people, if they don't make eye contact with me, I always feel like that's really, really weird, like, and fishy, because I feel like the only way you can tell if somebody's like a genuine person is by looking them in their eyes. And I feel like not looking somebody in their eyes when they're talking is disrespectful, like, in a way, because it's just like, you're not really here, you know what I mean? You're not here, you know what I mean? So I just kind of noticed that straight away about her. And she was just asking me basic ass questions that everybody asks you when, you know, you meet them for the first time. She's just like,
are you in school? Or how old are you?
And
have you worked in the restaurant before?
Or
why are you leaving your other job?
Just like basic stuff. And we were having like a nice little conversation. she's a law student, or she was talking about how she was about to graduate from law school, and she seemed pretty excited about that. I, you know, I was happy for her, I guess. Like, I don't know, I didn't really know her that well, so I mean, it was whatever. But yeah, that's the first waitress that I met, and the second waitress was Monica. She was a little bit of an older lady. She seemed like she was maybe in her like late 30s, early 40s. I don't believe she had any kids. Hadn't heard her really talk about kids. She worked multiple jobs. She worked like 3 to 4 jobs. Like, she expressed that to me, you know, in one of the first conversations we had. So this was one of her many jobs that she had. It seemed like she worked at more than one restaurant. So she seemed like a really experienced waitress. And honestly, y'all, she was a little bit nicer to me than the other waitress, Ashley. Ashley would say things in like a condescending way. And y'all will hear about that later on, you know, as I get further into the story. She was very condescending, very rude. I can't deal with people who just act like, you know, you're dumb. I hate when people insult my intelligence. It's like, I'm not stupid, sweetie. This isn't my first job. I'm an adult too. Like, let's not do this, but you know, whatever. So yeah, I meet those 2 waitresses, and basically my whole first day I was just shadowing them. I didn't wait any tables my first day, I don't believe. I just kind of like followed them, saw what they were saying to the customers and how they interacted with the customers, how they were explaining the menu to them, and how to use the computer, and then basically the side work. Because of course, like, if you're a waitress, you know that there's side work that you have to do, rolling silverware or prepping salads or doing whatever. So at this specific restaurant, the routine every day was the same, because you came around at like the same time every single day. You either worked lunch or you worked dinner. And they didn't really show me the procedures for working lunch. Like, I was just kind of waitressing during lunch, because I feel like they kind of prep everything in the morning for lunch. So I didn't really have to do much then. But at nighttime, there was a little bit more that you have to do. So you come in, and one of the first things you do is fill up the lettuce that they have. They have a big container of lettuce, because they offer a salad. Like, with almost every meal, it starts you off with like a little side salad that you can have, and they offer you like free bread with that. And so waitresses were responsible for making the salads. And so, you know, it's our responsibility to fill up the lettuce. And then they had dessert trays. We had to cut up the dessert trays and place them on a plate and place them on saran wrap and put them in the fridge. We had to wipe off all of the nozzles of the condiments. We had to prep all of the toppings for the salads and things like that. And we also had to roll the silverware and fill up the ice container that, you know, you have over there by the drink nozzles and stuff like that. So that was the side work that we had to do. It was pretty basic, and it was, like I said, repetitive. So she shows me how to do the side work, and I'm like, okay, cool, got that. So she basically shows me how to use the computer and how to take orders. Like I said, the meals came with salads. So you either got a Greek salad or a house salad. Like, those are the most common ones that people would get. You know, you wouldn't really get anything crazy. So the first day was cool. At the end of my shift, she's just like,
okay, your first day wasn't that bad. Do you want to work tomorrow lunch? Because I really need someone to work tomorrow lunch. My other waitress can't come in tomorrow, so can you come?
And I was just like, well, I can come, but my last class of the day ends at 12. And so she was just like,
oh, that's kind of late for lunch, because like that's just when everyone starts getting here. But
I was like, I can be there by at least 12:30, you know, because I could just have my uniform in my bag and just come straight here. And she was like, oh, okay, we can do that. So I came at 12:30. I come in. She then tells me that I'm gonna take a couple tables, and she'll be there to watch me and see, you know, how I introduce myself, how I take the orders, making sure that I'm doing everything right. And so, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. So I get a table, you know, it was like 4 ladies. They come in, and I introduce myself, and I'm like, hey, my name is Stephanie. I'm a new waitress here, so bear with me. And, you know, they laugh. They're really, really friendly. They were really nice. And so I then say, you know, can I start you guys off with anything to drink? And they're like, yeah. They give me their drink orders, and I go and grab those for them. I bring them to the table, and they're regulars, so they already know what they want. So they let me know their order. I write everything down on my little notepad or whatever, and then I walk over to the computer. And of course, the manager, she follows me over there to, you know, kind of see how I do on the computer, to see if I know how to enter the orders incorrectly, and if I remembered, you know, everybody's orders correctly and everything like that. So of course, you know, I answered everything that they got. Everything was, you know, I didn't make any mistakes or whatever. Their order went through. And so basically, you know, if they don't order any appetizers or anything, you can just go ahead and like send their food in straight away, because, you know, of course they're hungry. It's lunchtime. They might be at work, you know, having a break or whatever. So their food's ready. I bring their food out. Everything's good. You know, they all tip me. I make about maybe like $8 in tips from that table. Nothing crazy. I feel like $8 is okay for it to be my first table. So she's like,
Okay, good. Just make sure you clean off your table.
you know, do what you have to do. And I was just like, cool. So I worked that lunch that day, and I waited maybe like 3 tables total. I didn't mess up anybody's orders. You know, of course, you have a couple customers come in and they're just like, you know, they like to pick on you because you're new. You know, you have those customers, but there weren't that many of them. So I wasn't really too worried about them. So the next day that I come in was like that following Thursday, I feel like. So I come in for dinner. And so the same 2 waitresses from the first day are working that shift with me as well. So because I did so well during lunch and I didn't have any issues, I felt like, you know, I could handle taking tables during dinner time. I of course I couldn't work like, you know, like 5, 6, 7 tables, like I'd been there forever. But of course, you know, working a few tables, a small section basically, wouldn't be a problem, because I felt like I knew what I was doing somewhat. The computer wasn't very hard to figure out. The customers, most of them were regular, so they already knew what they wanted, so there wasn't really much explaining I had to do of the menu or anything. So yeah, she basically gave me 2 tables as my section. So I'm only gonna get, you know, the amount of customers that she seats in my section, or those 2 tables. So, of course, as you can imagine, because I didn't make very many mistakes, there wasn't really much for me to do. I only had 2 tables. I went to the back of the kitchen to see if there was any side work I could do. You know, everything was already pretty much prepped. The only side work that we would then have to do that night was closing the kitchen, closing the back or whatever. But it wasn't time to close yet. Like, you know, dinner had just started. People had just started to flow in. The other 2 waitresses, Ashley and Monica, get huge sections. I personally felt like I could have handled a section that had maybe like 4 tables instead of 2, just because I wasn't having to ask anybody really that many questions about how to use everything. Like, I was doing everything on my own. I was doing fine, and I wasn't having any issues. You know, of course, every once in a while, I said her real name, Ashley, this girl would get so a little bit fresh with me when I would mess up. You know, I am a very patient person. So when somebody's making mistakes and somebody's new at something, you don't clown them. You don't, you know, try to make them feel stupid. You don't insult their intelligence. That should not be your first instinct when someone is messing up and someone's new at something. You want to comfort that person, and you want to make sure that you establish yourself as somebody that they can come to when they're having problems in that new work environment or that new setting that they're in, whatever, because they might not have anyone else to turn to, and they might not feel comfortable asking anybody else. So I feel like for her to, you know, make me feel like I'm dumb if I mess up, or make me feel, you know, insulted, I felt some type of way about that. And I kept note of it, you know, in the back of my head whenever she did act that way. Monica, she's a little bit sweeter when it came to, you know, giving me tips and the way that she phrased things, because I'm a very strong believer in it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So when someone's coming at me sideways or cutting their eye at me when I make a mistake, rather than just being like, hey, I would recommend doing this, or hey, I noticed that you did this, and this is what you're supposed to do. And so, you know, just trying to help you out. Like, she would just phrase things in a way better way, in a way more respectful manner, to where she, you know, she was respecting the fact that I was not a freaking, like, you know, 13-year-old child who was working at a restaurant and had zero work experience. You know what I mean? Like, I felt disrespected by some of the things that Ashley, you know, said, or the way that she did things, or the way that she said things. But, you know, I didn't really think about it too much because, you know, at the end of the day, I was just there to make money. Like, I don't have to be anybody's best friend at my job. You know, it was a new place and there was very little people who worked there. They maybe had like a handful of waiters and waitresses that worked there. So, I mean, whatever. Everybody was just there to make money. I just noticed that, you know, every time I made a little mistake or whatever, or I was confused about something, you know, Ashley would catch an attitude. And then I also noticed that, like, you know, throughout the shift, I would be most of the time standing by myself, and then Ashley and the owner were sitting there in the corner just talking to each other, just talking. And then Monica would join, but they would never really come over and talk to me. Like, I always had to go over and like start the conversation with them. But to me, it just seemed like, you know, they were maybe talking or they just didn't really want to talk to me at all. They didn't really make me feel welcomed at all. I felt low-key uncomfortable after a while, after a few days. I don't know if it's because they didn't like me or they just didn't want to include me in their conversation or whatever it was, but they just didn't want to talk to me. And I was just like, whatever, you know, I'm just going to sit over here in my corner and check on my customers, you know, the 1-2 customers that you did give me. But, whatever. So, fast forward. I finally meet the second owner. I think he was busy. I don't know if he was on a trip or something, but I finally met the second owner of the restaurant, who was his husband. And we will name this man Ferb. So Ferb comes in and he greets everybody, you know, his whole team, and he just takes one look at me and then just kind of walks past me and continues to say hi to everybody else. Of course, from that, I was just kind of rubbed the wrong way because I was just like, you know, I'm new to your team. I'm here at your restaurant, and here you are. Oh, sorry, my necklace is uneven, but whatever. And here you are just being disrespectful, flat out, just like not even trying to introduce yourself to me or, you know, ask me my name or anything like that. Because I'm sure, you know, your wife informed you that I'm a part of your team now and I've been here. But he would just seem like he just didn't really like me. From looks of me, you can tell, you know, when somebody's, you know, low-key, you know, a little bit racist or prejudiced. Because he really didn't have any other reason to, you know, shade me in that way. Okay. He won't talk to me. The entire time that I worked there, I don't think he started not one conversation with me. I tried to make a few jokes with him here and there, but he would just kind of look at me like this. Just like that. Literally. And not to mention, one time I overheard his phone call, and I can understand Spanish pretty well. My Spanish isn't the best, but I can understand a phone call. I can understand a conversation. And I heard him say on the phone, oh, we have this new black girl as a waitress, but she's a sleeping waitress. I could understand everything he said. And as he said that, I could see his wife, Angela, like kind of look at me, like, or like kind of cut her eyes at me. And I was just confused. I don't understand what I did to make him think that. Like, you guys are only giving me 2 tables each night to work with. There's no other side work for me to possibly do. I done rolled the silverware myself. The lettuce is stacked all the way up. I stocked all the ice up. You know, while Dawn and Monica are making all this money, I'm sitting here doing all the side work. I'm cleaning off their tables that they can't get to. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm not making any money, and I'm doing all this work. Like, I just didn't really get it. And it's just like, if my work ethic is not reflecting what you want, why couldn't you tell me that, you know, beforehand, or before making me buy all this stuff, like making me buy all this uniform? I was just like over it. So, you know, by this point, I'm just overall uncomfortable with working there just because of the way that the owner was acting towards me, his wife, just the other waitresses didn't really seem interested in trying to get to know me or make me feel comfortable. This one incident that I forgot to mention made me kind of look at Monica sideways. You know, up until she said this, I kind of like had a good impression of her, but she was just saying how you know, or I was talking about my hair because I think my hair was like lifting a little bit. It didn't really look as good that day at work, but she was just like,
No, you have like the good natural hair, like the good kind, like at least it's like wavy or it's like curly or whatever. But my friend, however, she has like the nappy type of natural hair and it's like rough and she doesn't take care of it and stuff.
and I was just all kind of like, sis, you don't even know, not even the half about hair, and who are you to tell somebody their hair is good hair or bad hair? Like, I know she was trying to give me a compliment, but we all know how that goes. Let's just fast forward to my last day at this job. So of course I'm expecting my standard 2 tables, and I come in and I do my side work and everything's normal. And there was this one couple that came in, super nice old white couple who came in. They seemed like they were coming to the restaurant for a very long time. Of course, you know, by this point they know the routine of the service that they're going to receive. So I go up to them, I introduce myself, and you know, they're being friendly and nice. You know, I'm kind of just feeling very comfortable with them. They didn't make me feel any type of way. They go ahead and order their alcoholic beverages. So I go ahead and put that order in. We weren't really allowed to touch the bar. Angela was the only one who dealt with the bar if we had a drink order, because you know, you have to get your alcohol handling license or whatever that is to even, you know, touch the alcohol. But I could serve it. I went ahead and grabbed their drinks for them, and they asked for bread. We bring out bread every single time that someone orders it. I brought them their drinks. They then asked if they could have their bread. So I go to the back to grab the bread, and follows me back there, and she just screams,
What are you doing?
and I was just like, getting their bread? And she was just like,
No. You do not bring out the bread first. That comes after you take their orders.
and I'm just getting here like, sis, these are regular customers. You told me they're regular customers. And if they ask me to bring them bread, what am I supposed to tell them? No, you can't have bread until after you take your order. Like, obviously, if they're regulars, they're already gonna know what they want to eat. I don't understand that, but whatever. Go off, sis. They order their food, and I go ahead and I send their orders in, and she's just coming over to the computer, just making sure that I'm doing everything right. She's like, oh,
Did you get this order? Did you get that? Is that what you wanted? Okay. Is that right? That's right. Okay. You're doing it right. Okay, that's fine.
and so I felt like that day she was just trying to find a reason to yell at me, or find a way to catch me slipping or something like that. Like, find a reason to go off on me about a mistake that I made. But I wasn't really making any mistakes. At this point, I pretty much knew the routine. I knew what to do every single day. I knew how the orders were gonna go. They were regular customers. They already knew what they wanted. It wasn't very hard. But for some reason, she would just catch an attitude with me every other table that I had. And mind y'all, I wasn't even doing a whole lot. I didn't have a lot of tables. I only had 2 tables. So in the meantime, all I have to do is just wait on their food to come out. There's no other work for me to do. The side work was already done. I sat there and rolled all the silverware myself, while the other 2 waitresses were making all this money and getting all these tables. And I was just sitting here cleaning up after them and waiting on the 1 or 2 tables that I did have. Sometimes I only had 1 table, or only had like a couple customers. So obviously I'm not going to be running back and forth like they are to go do stuff in the kitchen or to go check on their orders and stuff like that. There wasn't very much for me to do. So of course I'm just standing there. And I guess she just had a problem with me standing there. I don't know. There was nothing else for me to do. I even asked her. I was like, what else do you need me to do? And she's just like,
Oh, well, Did you check on your customers? Did you roll the silverware? Did you check in the back?
And I'm just like, yeah, I did all that. There's not really anything to do. And she was just like, okay, well, I'll let you know if there's anything else you need to do. And she just stands there where she's standing, and I go back to where I was standing. So fast forward to the end of the night. Monica's like,
all right, Steph, let's go in the back, and I'm gonna show you how to do this one thing when we close.
And ugly ass comes over, and she says,
there's no need for that. There's no need for you to go and show her how to close in the back because this will be her last day.
my last what? My last day? Y'all, I was so freaking pissed in this moment. As soon as I heard her say that, I was so shocked because at this point, I hadn't really done anything wrong. Of course, if you're new, you're gonna make mistakes here and there, which I did, but the majority of the time, I got them right. Of course, I didn't mess up anybody's orders. I didn't have any complaints from customers. I was making good tips. Like, everything was fine. So I didn't really understand why she was saying that just now. You know, my immediate reaction to her saying that was like, what? You know, there's customers sitting in the restaurant when she says this. Like, there's people sitting at the bar. We're standing, like, near the bar area. And then there's, like, tables, you know, a few feet away from that bar. And so I'm having this conversation with her. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm fired. You made me buy this shirt. You made me go and buy these shoes. You made me buy this stupid apron for $10. I spent $50 on this uniform, and you're telling me that you're gonna fire me over what? And she was just like,
okay, don't get loud when we have customers. It's unprofessional.
I knew it was unprofessional. I was pissed. I was pissed, y'all. I wasn't even like, I wasn't even thinking about the customer sitting right there. She made me feel like I was doing a good job up until this date in particular. I don't know why. I honestly felt like they didn't really intend me to stay there from the very beginning. I don't know. That's just the feeling that I get. So we go to the back, and she just starts saying how you're not doing anything, and you're just sitting there in the corner, and there's other stuff to be done, and I can't pay somebody to just stand there. And I went off on her too, and I was just like, well, you're only giving me 2 tables to wait when you and I both know well I can wait more than 2 tables. You've not had one complaint from a customer. I've not messed up not anybody's order. I was doing just fine. So for her to come out of nowhere and pull that out of her ass, y'all, I felt like I was about to cuss her up one side and down the other. Like, I was so mad. And so I feel like tears start coming out my eye because I was just frustrated. And I was just like, you know what? I can't. And so she's just like, well, you know, do you want to finish up your last table, or do you want me to transfer it over to Ashley or Monica? And I was just like, no, I'll finish my last table, because this table, they were nice and I felt like they were going to give me a good tip, and they did. So I went over, finished up my last table, and I went to the back, and I was just like, I don't understand why you're firing me. I haven't been doing anything wrong. And she was just like,
I just want to see that you're putting in more effort.
And I was just like, okay. She's like,
well, if you put in more effort, you can come back.
And I was just like, okay, that's fine. And so I just never went back. I never went back after that. And yeah, I don't know. It was literally the worst work experience I've had. And I was literally only there for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And it was awful. But yeah, that concludes my story time about the time that I worked at a Greek restaurant. It was awful. The food was not seasoned. It was just not good. And I don't know how that restaurant has been around for over 70 years, because honestly, the only people that came in were old people. But yeah, whatever. Thank you for tuning into my first YouTube video, you guys. I'm sorry if it's like awkward at certain moments. I'm still figuring out how to edit and speak and like be comfortable in front of a camera. I feel like it'll get better over time. But I'm super, super, super excited to start this YouTube channel and just put my thoughts out there and have someone to talk to, because I do talk a lot. I have a lot of experiences, a lot of story times, a lot of different things that I want to talk about and discuss on this channel, and I hope you guys look forward to it as much as I do. And yeah, bye.